Hello, everybody. Welcome back into Sports and Money with Benjamin Parker. I am your host. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the Pro Football General Manager segment of the show. And obviously, I am not a pro football general manager, but I sure do enjoy analyzing the decisions that some of these guys have to make. And I appreciate you joining us today. Listen, some of you may not be having a good day, may not be having a good year so far. Thank you for joining us. I hope that we can, over the next 5 or 10 minutes, make your day a little brighter, distract you maybe from some of the troubles that are happening with you. So we appreciate you being a part. We are looking at the Baltimore Ravens 2019 off season. We're in mid-January, and we're going to look at some good news for the Ravens and some not so good news for Baltimore as well. Let's start with the good news, and that good news takes the form of Lamar Jackson. Of course, you all know about him. He's the guy who led you on the big winning streak and also into the playoffs and just had a tremendous year. What amazing athletic ability this guy has. Maybe he's not Patrick Mahomes. He can't sling the ball all over the field, at least not that we've seen so far. Maybe he'll develop into that, but no matter what, he had a tremendous year. Now, this is not a question of who's going to start next season. We all know, it's obvious, Lamar Jackson will be the starter for next season. This is not a question of who to keep, Lamar Jackson or Joe Flacco. We all know that they're going to keep Lamar Jackson. The question is what to do with Joe Flacco, and I'll get to that in just a second, but I want to give you a little more good news if you're a Ravens fan about why you should be excited about Lamar Jackson, whether or not he develops into an amazing passer or not. If he can continue to just develop a little bit each year as a passer, his amazing athletic ability and his obvious not being scared to play against NFL defenses will make a huge difference. But let's look at the reason why you should be excited. It's right here. This is the contract. This is his money. He is making next season, get this, $2.2 million. That is nothing. That's not even much money for a backup quarterback. Because he's on a rookie deal, $2.2 million, and the next few seasons are the same. 2.6 the year after, 3 flat the year after that, and then of course you have the 5th-year option. Listen, because he barely got drafted in the first round. If he'd got drafted in the second round, you wouldn't have this 5th-year option. Some of you don't know this because you work hard and you have to do other things. You don't get to research all this stuff. Because he was drafted in the first round, even though he was the last guy, the Ravens have a 5th-year option on him at a very discounted rate compared to what all the other quarterbacks in the NFL are going to be making in 2022. I don't know, the average starting quarterback salary in the NFL in 2022 will be about $30 million for those guys who have moved past their rookie contract and they have hit the free agent market or signed a big deal with their current team. It's going to be about $30 million in that 5th year. We don't know this exactly because we don't know what all the numbers are going to look like. Should be in the neighborhood of about $10 to $14 million. So you're going to have an extravagant discount. If Lamar Jackson is worth keeping at all during that 5th season, you're going to have an amazing discount on a quarterback at about $10 to $14 million. Just depends on what the numbers add up to during that season. So that's all the good news. Lamar Jackson is a freak of nature athletically. We hope he improves passing-wise, but even if he doesn't, listen, you're not spending hardly anything on him. And if for some reason, I'm not even going to hardly mention it, if for some reason he turns out not to be worth keeping, it costs you nothing to let him go. So Lamar Jackson, starter next year, starter for the next few years, hopefully making very little money. That's good news for the Ravens. Now, what to do with Joe Flacco? What to do with Joe Flacco? I know some of you listen. You love Joe Flacco. He took you to a Super Bowl win. He's had quite a career there in Baltimore. He is a part of the community there in Baltimore. You really like him, and you might say, why not keep Joe Flacco? What better backup could there be in all of the NFL than Joe Flacco? And the reason is this: $26.5 million. In 2019, he is slated to make $26.5 million. That's a lot of money for any quarterback. I don't care if you're Brady or Rodgers. Listen, the record has shown over the past 10, 12 seasons, if you were a quarterback and on your rookie deal, you're able to lead a team to the Super Bowl and possibly even win it, the very next year, this is Joe Flacco, when you sign that next deal as a quarterback, that big money deal where you're making the big quarterback money, almost instantly your win totals go down every year because you're paying so much to this guy right here. That is about the number, $26.5 million. You could get about 2.5 or 3 quality starters on your team, and I'm not talking about guys on rookie deals who run out. I'm talking about guys who have hit the free agent market. They're making $8 or $9, maybe even $10 million. With that kind of money, $26.5 million, you can get 2 or even 3 starters, quality starters, excellent starters for your football team, cover up a lot of holes. So, and this is what happened to Joe Flacco and the Ravens. It's what happened to Drew Brees and the Saints. It's what happened to Russell Wilson and the Seahawks. It has happened to other teams. It's happened to Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. When that quarterback shows up in the Super Bowl, but he's still on his rookie deal, and the next year you sign him to a lot of money, which they are worth, by the way, from an athletic, from a production standpoint. But automatically you realize that you're going to have to drop 2 or 3 quality starters off your football team, and either that quarterback is going to have to play better than 2 or 3 starters in addition to how good he already played, or you're going to have to draft like you have never drafted before. And oh, by the way, because the NFL structures it this way, you're not going to be drafted in the top 10 anymore because you win so much. You're going to be drafting somewhere around number 20. So, having said all of that, $26.5 million for any quarterback is questionable. For a backup, it simply won't work. So, let's just release Joe Flacco. And here's the problem. Dead cap money, $16 million. A lot of you already know this, some of you don't. $16 million is what you have to pay to Joe Flacco, whether he is on your roster or not. So, the actual savings next season, this offseason, is this number right here. $10.5 million. If you just let Joe Flacco go, thank you for all the hard work, Joe. If you just let him go, you get $10.5 million. And this number, this is the important number. Listen, if you're a general manager, you might wish, man, if the Ravens, if Flacco, if we just could have signed into that contract 1 year earlier, the timing would have been perfect. In 2020, that next year, it's a $28 million cap hit, but it's only $8 million dead cap to let him go. Didn't work out that way. This is what you got. You got Lamar Jackson on the cheap. Joe Flacco, though, is a $16 million. No matter what you do, let him go, cut him, trade him. No matter what you do, you're going to be paying $16 million to Joe Flacco during this next season, whether he's on your roster or not. But this is the important number, $10.5 million. That's the difference between 26.5 and 16. That's the difference that you are going to be able to save with $10.5 million a year and with a quarterback in your pocket for the next few seasons. You can hit the free agent market. You can get 1 quality starter, 1 really good starter for that money, maybe on the offensive line, maybe somewhere on defense, wherever you want that to be. That $10.5 million over the next couple of seasons is going to be invaluable. It will instantly upgrade your team, and that can be very important. Some of you are saying, listen, 1 starter is not that important. The NFL is a league of matchups. Guys, listen, it may not matter as much during the regular season, although it does matter. But when you get to the playoffs especially, this is when it matters. Guys like Bill Belichick and Andy Reid and other guys like him all over the NFL, offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, they're all looking for the holes and the weaknesses in your team, and especially in your starting lineup. And if you can take the money that you were given to Flacco and put that somewhere else and fill another hole on your team and still have better production out of Lamar Jackson, you are winning as a Ravens fan. What you have to hope, and I don't think this is going to happen, and I'll stop with this. What you have to hope is that somebody is interested in trading for Joe Flacco. I don't think there's any way that's going to happen. I would put the odds at 99.9% against that. He's 34 years old. His production hasn't been that good. He's missed the playoffs most of the past few seasons. He's going to be making $26.5 along with $28 million over the next 2 seasons. I don't see anybody willing to trade. I don't even think you can get a 7th round draft pick for Joe Flacco under those contracts. Now, what I think will happen, I think if you're the Ravens, you'll shop him around a little bit. You'll see if anybody at all is interested in giving you anything at all for him. Maybe a 6th or 7th round draft pick. I don't see any chance or any way that that's going to happen. So I think the Ravens are just going to have to cut him outright because of that cap number and because of his age. And I think Joe Flacco will get signed. I don't think there's any doubt he'll get signed by another team to be a backup somewhere in the league. I think he would be a very good backup. I don't think you want him as your starter anywhere in the NFL, but I do think he would be an excellent backup. He'll probably get a smaller contract with some team, probably a 2 or 3 year deal to be the backup. But that number right there, that's what you're looking at if you're the Ravens general manager. And this is all the good news right here if you're a Ravens fan. You got Lamar Jackson, and you got an extra $10.5 million in your pocket. Unfortunately, you'll have to say goodbye to Joe Flacco. Thank you so much for listening. Listen, by the way, some of you are thinking about doing your own YouTube channel. I encourage you to do it. Listen, you can't get any worse video or audio than what I have here. So you couldn't get any worse than me. So by all means, if you're thinking about doing something like this as well, in football or in basketball or in cake making, whatever you want it to be about, I encourage you to do it. It's a lot of fun, and it's exciting to get to do it. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time on Sports and Money with Benji Parker. Goodbye.